my dearest brothers and sisters. Welcome to another day of eternity, whereby we may claim our right to co-create a system that is open to a potential, where we may see our fruits, our simulated goals to have an effect. And it could seem hard in these days where everything seems to be so stuck and rigid and out of the ordinary, or too ordinary, for it to change. And this is one of the lies that have been concocted by the fallen ones. Now, I have mentioned briefly about them before, and before I get into the subject, I want to thank you. Those who may be interested in attuning to what I have to share, I say thank you. And even though you may think that I have something for you that may assist in your divine plan, again, nothing I say can guarantee your awakening, your raising in consciousness, to your education of this school earth. It is simply just a reflection that you see from me that is already within you. Because everything that's being said, well, I'm not going to put it this way, but many things, as far as I experience, to what will be said and has been said, is beyond the identifications of what most individuals have not been able to proceed or supersede. And that sounds probably very confusing to you. In other words, these forms of communication is beyond what most individuals contain in their emotions and thoughts and identifications. I use that word in the beginning, but it's actually still precisely beyond it as I experience it. And I understand that there are still some things that go against what I just said. Nevertheless, we're all a work in progress. And yet at the same time of being the two sides of the coin, we are already perfect. Yet can we remember this? Can we remember to be more than what we know? To do better than what we know? And most say you have to know better in order to do better. Well, there is a little catch upon that phrase, and I would like to explain here that really accepting ourselves to know better comes into a process of being where you know somehow that there is more than what you call better, or than what you call what you know, to affirm that there is a better way. Anyways, my friends, out of this congruent conversation, or perpendicular, as just one way to define myself as imperfect, but in a way that I think is constructive, I wish to formulate the connection where we can meet each other and understand a divine plan that is so beautiful and so meaningful to experience throughout every moment of life. It's likened to when you hear a song that you really love and trying to maintain that state of that love that you had in that song throughout your day. I have had one where I have been remembering, wishing to stay in this state. But the state that I wish sometimes to be is something that blocks my actual state that is already there. That really has no definitions to how I should or should not be, knowing that not all experiences on the outer will always have a supreme experience of oneness, because that's what we're all seeking, oneness. In as many ways as possible, above and below, vertical and horizontal. And for those of you who are new, I welcome your spirit into the presence of some things that you may or may not already know. But for many of us, this four-body system, physical, emotional, mental, and the identification levels of our being, do not understand some of the logic that is more interpreted in this day and age as intuition. I find it a great challenge for me to interpret how you may be right now and give you something that you may find interest in and to share with others that may be able to receive it in the best way possible. That is a challenge that I will be continuing to go through. Nevertheless, thank you for being here. Now, I have said some things in my previous videos. And this is for those of you who continue to wish to understand the progression of some of the things that I know and don't know. And I mean don't know is because sometimes when I speak and allow myself to have the presence of spirit, the I am, the higher self, come through, there are new things that my four-body system and what I have called the conscious you, which is pure awareness, which is an extension of our higher self, our I am presence, in another dimension, as all our four body parts are in different dimensions, different vibration spectrums, different colors, different types of music, you can say. I wouldn't say it's all music, though, when we look upon planets like Earth. Nevertheless, my main point that I wish to share here is I may backtrack a little bit, but my main intent will be to continue to move forward. And as I have said this, I will begin. So I have a general overlay of society and the pillars that run it. And although I have a general overlay, and for some of them I know more of a specific manner when it comes to spirituality, that does not mean I will need your help. That does not mean I will not need your help. Excuse me. For I will try to build this movement, this school, with an open-ended availability for those who have the potential to share from the heart things that are not being said today, things that are not being done today, for the exact importance for them to be done. Because actions need to be taken from one side of the coin, and the other side of the coin just so simply is an allowance to whatever happens. But this coin that allows whatever happens does not allow based on the intention of not doing anything. You see, from when we raise our awareness, understand why we have traumas, why we go through embodiments, reincarnation, you can say. It precisely raises the collective energetic field in your locality and in the world. If you look, there are good things being done, but I've said before that these good things are in the minority. And so as this balance is held, or I should say, as this imbalance is held, the world will continue to look more and more grotesque, which right now it seems to be quite nice to many people. But they don't understand how in a blink of an eye many things can shift in their local community, just by the factor that many are unwilling to look at the core of community, the core of themselves. And this is part of the judgment of Christ, God, the I Am presence, that does not allow people to continue on in their wanderings and meanderings of the lullaby of lust, greed, materialism, and any other type of religion that binds you to a course where you are not actually connecting or helping connect your spiritual brothers and sisters around the world. For we are spiritual. We are not material animals. We are not simply a cause based on evolution. And I was reading the book, My Lives, with Lucifer, Satan, Hitler, and Jesus by Kim Michaels. He went over quite a bit the irrational statements provided by religious and scientific communities based on absolutism, claiming absolute righteousness. There is no higher way in science and religion, which has now been politically influenced. And my hope is to change these things. This book may assist you, but right now I'm asking you to see if there is any way you think you can bring forth your assistance into this school. You may call it a mystery school, but if you come, if you hear, listen, and speak, it may be a school for the new definition of the Illuminati, the Illumined Ones. And if you look clearly, that the Illuminati, or whatever you want to call them, the power elite, they are operating in a state of very consistent torture upon themselves. The amount of nurturance that they're receiving is very minimal. And to say that they have power, they have illumination, that they are the conquerors of love, no. This is something that is very available in this world today, but that can be a contradictory statement because of the lack of tolerance for this and many of the pillars of society. There's many free places and open places for individuals to go and receive this information. But who will give you the advice to tell you about them, to go to these places, online or on land? Precisely that is why I sense a lot of us came here, to prove something out of the ordinary. Through the use of information and sharing that we, in the Western world, well, some of us in the East, but in developed countries, could be able to take a stand and give people another opportunity despite their lack of acceptance towards new opportunity, through their every moment that is being brought to them by their threefold flame within the center of their chest cavity. From there, I am Christ's presence, the Buddha, the Bodhisattva. Nevertheless, dear beloved ones of my family, when people make a decision to not hear the voice of the presence speaking to them, they create a even more sophisticated justification system, rationale system that tells them more and more that they do not have to listen to this voice, and in fact that even if you do listen to the voice, you won't have any power. It is precisely the fact that most people are unwilling to look at the effects of their spiritual growth, of their inherent desires to connect with people beyond what schools, religions, and science have taught them, that allows them to know that there is more than what is spoken upon the earth. As hard as it may seem to speak to individuals outside of your circle of influence, your inner circle of friends, it is one of the most needed activities in this day and age. Besides just creating movements like this, where we can be able to share information through publications of books and various forms of media, videos, writings. These are prevalent among the land, and for those who have a spirit that is being allowed to come through them, even if it's just a little bit, that may be able to contact some of these sources. Nevertheless, there are, as I've said before, labels upon labels, various teachers and organizations and movements that say they are teaching the way, and some of them do have bits of truth in them, but you will see that there is a majority of ease of comfortability to transcend beyond what their current state of consciousness is, which is usually revolving around transcendence, feel-good, Pollyannaism. Probably not going to use that word again. And mental models of articulation to pinpoint authority by the mere intellectualism of how well you can put words together to show that others are less than, to make them feel that they need to hear and heed yourself. My beloved ones, I told you about the sacred fire, and I'll tell you it again. And it can come through many various ways, and it comes through us by the inspiration of our hearts to work on this unity, this connection, to establish an awareness of how we are all connected on this earth. And it's been told by quantum physicists in some aspects, it's been told by some religions in some aspects, but a lot of it has been construed, and politics has done its deal. Especially letting certain laws outplay, or certain rules in society outplay, where anything goes. Partying, drugs. Fanaticism on the lust through fashion, entertainment, music and movies. I'm not going to try to get into a negative spiral here, but there's definitely a lack of awareness that has not been given out, as a lot of you may already know. And how do we break this? Well, we may not be able to, but there are ways that we can give opportunity to see that they can also create a dent, simply by doing similar things that I'm doing here. Although there is a certain level of sophistication that it takes to be able to speak and allowing the Spirit to come through, allowing certain momentums, or I should say activities of the sacred fire to purify and align our own four-body system into the will, wisdom, and love of God inside of everyone and everything. It's been about 4 years now. A little bit less than that. Since I have been consistently, with determination, living the best I can through serving others. And I've had a lot of extreme points, epic dramas, as it's been called in a book, through Jesus, by Kim, which is part of a 3-book series. Nevertheless, for those who are very much spiritually inclined, can be drawn into some of the logic and irrationale of these sophisticated beings who have misused their power. The fallen ones, you can call them, where they divert your attention into creating some sort of mission and journey that builds the awakening, that provides the attacks, that construe the enemy, not necessarily having to use physical force, but being the delivery man to impede upon the doorsteps of as many people as possible the right way, and to do that in balance while upholding that type of mission. I'm not going to get into it so much, but it may be hard to tell from what I'm saying now, but it is very much drawing individuals, this logic, into an imbalance that delays a lot of the things that could allow other people to awaken if they are simply taking an approach towards understanding the deeper levels, initiations of consciousness, which entirely involves you looking at what you're afraid of what your perception says is absolute, of what says your service is limited, of what says things that you should and should not say to other individuals based on their reaction to you. And there are certain words put together that may just jumble people and just think that you're from another planet entirely in itself, which is not entirely false. Nevertheless, there are certain distinctions that allow your light, allow the sun inside of you to emit a vibration that contains the very elements that break down what would one say called miracles. That's okay, I'm not going to judge. Miracles, allowing, through looking at some of these frailties, which are actually there as a part of progress for us to learn cause and effect. But as I have just bounced all over the place here, no matter how low, so to speak, someone may seem to be in consciousness, you will never know with your outer mind what truly can break open the doors to those who have shut them and sealed them from all manner of entrance that is different than what they have grown up with in the mere decades in their very intense work. Establishing that oneness, beloved ones, of seeing that immaculate vision and the threefold flame and your brothers and sisters across this world is a mere activity. Me and my use of words is an activity that may assist in your experience to understand this oneness, because until we are raised to a certain vibration collectively, for most of us, we will not be able to see the universal connection with our physical senses. And to give our experience of our inner self and our four-body system more of an experience of oneness, we have to continuously act in that intention to provide that oneness with others, giving the universe permission to give back what we send out, as it is the law for what we send out comes back to us. And though those people around where you live that come in and out of your business, that come in and out of your communities, may not have they may not have an iota of any type of openness to hear what you wish to say, but precisely by our ability to just give the opportunity, as so many do not, allows ourselves to experience a new level of life that constitutes to our giving into a receiving complementary action. The incrustations of what ideas and mental boxes that many people have concocted has not been able to allow people to experience this oneness. And just as I said before, by the diligence of our intentions to build this foundation with others, with ourselves, understanding these traumas that came from the very first time we entered this plane and place, not having to use hypnotic transgression or reverse transgression, but just looking at those parts of our lives that we have most felt uncomfortable. For some of us, it's just seeing the buildings. For some of us, it's just hearing the motors of traffic, hearing the pistons and the machines being forced by the concoctions of using oil to give us a way and means to live together, rather than allowing nature to not be forced by a way and means that is lowered from the ascended masters, that supports what others have known as free energy that cannot be monopolized. And as some of us may know, many of us have been persecuted for pursuing this path of invention that allows for many new conditions to take place on Earth. I would like to tell you that Jesus, as he was thinking about how to wake up Jerusalem, he wanted to find a method that could not be recorded, could not be written down into a scripture, could not be enraptured into something where people have to look back to the past. This is precisely what I wish to build upon, where you could hear me to a point where you have that confidence and courage that it gives you the permission to heal yourself through looking at your own psychology and providing that service once you have attained that sufficient recognition that you are beyond anything that has happened to you in this world and all your lifetimes, and that through various practices you can integrate the sacred fire and show others that they can embed their living temples with the sustenance that keeps them having a purpose. It keeps allowing them to see a meaningfulness of wanting to live life fully, and perhaps even for others. Seeing the detriment of our current situation, that Earth is becoming less and less inhabitable by the years that pass by. And that is no wrong thing to judge others, to say that they are lesser. It is just a awareness and understanding that we could see perhaps there are other things that we could have done. And there's lots of good potentials happening. As Gautama Buddha released in a dictation from Kim, but there are lots of ups and downs that have been going on in the past years in humankind's evolutions. And precisely within the last century, there have been many ups and downs. Very jagged. Nevertheless, there are ups. And there is a collective upward spiral being magnetized for a new future that is sustained upon love to be true. These words are no guarantee that this will happen, as I am just saying it is a potential. Beloved, connect to our oneness now. Connect to the oneness with everyone now. The Ascended Masters, they are here. Here, as I mean where you are. They are here in every follicle of any molecule. Where you see the There are two different types of particles. There are vital particles, and there are spiritual particles. And you're going to name them certain names or whatever, but nevertheless, there are particles that make up the outer form, but there are particles that make up the inner form. And if you have not heard of the ancient lands of Atlantis and Lemuria, there are ancient flames where the outer molecules, the spiritual molecules, were embedded through various temples, not to make others believe in their God as the infinite and absolute God, that their ways is the way where you achieve a hierarchical status that can show others that they are looked down upon. But there were temples, dear ones, where there was gatherings, where there would be emanations to this flame in these temples. Some have called it the Maxim light, but there have been many names for these different flames that have manifested themselves through the co-creators above and below. And yes, the Ascended Masters are also co-creators just like us. And they actually use that name. They don't term each other Ascended Masters because they know the source comes from above, although they get the authority to use that. And then again the circle continues, where they know it's not actually their authority that's being given to them. It's the authority of the Creator to see and experience itself in a unique aspect that gives value to everything that has been created. And these flames in these temples, beloved ones, they brought about a law of order for the outer molecules to hold form and to hold governance of certain qualities. And there's a spectrum of qualities that I'll probably get into the future. Right now, I'll say that there are different qualities that I don't know. And some of these correspond to positive attributes to what we would call a mystic of great knowledge that has confidence, bravery, and courage. And we see some of these qualities in people today. But it's becoming more and more minute as people outside of themselves for power, lust, and greed. Even the victimized consciousness that says that you can't do anything is just an acceptance upon a belief by the fallen ones. Again, individuals with sophisticated level of consciousness who attain great uses of power through serving God inside their brothers and sisters, then coming to the realization that somehow, some way, it was desired to take away people's power, for them to die. But it is only the ego, the outer mind, the concoctions of our mental boxes and perception filters that can die, for they are only temporary. And they can be of an assistance to us to lead us to a state of that which is called pure, absolute awareness. And this is an unconditionality, an unconditional state of being, whereby there is no real form, but in form there can be that presence, that being, that entity of a co-creator that knows itself as both form and the unformed, never defining itself to one or the other, because once you do define, you limit to what truly is undefinable. Now I want to go deeper into the specifics of this school. Lots will be labeled on the website if it is not already up. But the website will consist of various congregations to which I am aspiring you to lead with me in, where we can communicate in various ways and subjects we can talk about in education, politics, religion, gender roles, and the family structure. Perhaps it's agriculture, perhaps it's science, perhaps it's religion. Because none of these things in the end are bad. They can be tools to help bring people into a specific awareness that can very well help all other parts of society and of our own being to know itself truly as a creator of construction. Not destruction. Beloved ones, thank you for doing your very best when you have done your very best to reach out, to study thyself, and understand the dilemma at hand, whereby every part of the earth that is being broken down is a part of us, but not in the extreme extent where we feel like we will die if we will not get the right support that overturns the movement of the power elite and those who are so dumbed down, you can say, to refuse any type of inspiration that is the alarm call to act, even if that means to act upon understanding thyself as a spiritual being, because there must be a sufficient number of people for the earth to continue its axis and balance from its poles, which is out of alignment greatly. But as more individuals ascend, as more individuals walk the path of life, they may very well be able to pull up and up and up the collective majority of people on earth, to get to the point where everyone, or most individuals, are wishing to serve others, understand thyself, whereby allowing the judgment upon the fallen ones and those who wish to rebel against the kingdom of God inside themselves, to go to another sphere and planetary body that may have to be waited upon to be built and prepared for their level of consciousness to be suited to go forth through another round of hard knocks. Earth is in the latest sphere of creation, known as the seventh, and periodically there have been spheres beginning from number 1 where the Creator extended himself out, herself. It's really beyond genders. And so, through each sphere there were structures and laws in accordance where he also extended parts of himself out as beings that did not know truly that it was the Creator in a sense to its full extent. But these beings very much knew that there was a lot of, they could sense the translucency and the purity that was not masqueraded by what we have today in civilization. And they continue to grow from planets and spheres, one to the other, where the whole entire planet and sphere would ascend, reaching to a point where there became a possibility in the 4th sphere, where people could enter a state of consciousness known as duality or destruction, or sometimes it's not even to that point where destruction can label itself as someone who is looking to selfishly hurt others, but to just, I'm not going to get into it so much, but just is going about life in a way that is not truly understanding the full perspective of oneness that many of the co-creators from the Creator have already integrated in their sphere. And so there began a fall of individuals in consciousness, which led to the creation of new spheres. And as the sphere ascends, a new sphere is created And those who refused to walk the path of transcendence, you can say, had to go to these new spheres with as well as new individuals and co-creators coming to the spheres without necessarily following per se. That is why there are 7 root races for the earth, in which these root races, consisting of billions of people, hundreds of millions I would construe, began their time and space without any idea of time and space. And they knew themselves as one in a way of livelihood and culture, with all beings whereby the structures created serve the all and serve the people authentically, creatively, empathetically. And Earth, I would have to say that although it may get confusing in what I've just said, started out in a beginning sphere. And as the spheres ascended, it did not determine the planet would ascend to a point where it could not go back. But yes, I experienced it, understand it, as the planet did ascend. But it never got to the point of impermanence, whereby everyone would be fully wanting to continue. And this happened in the 4th root race. There are 7. Many of them in the 7th have not been able to come here. There are some here though. Who have been willing to pave the way for a new experience that people can undergo that shows this universal connection that the 7th root race is very much prepared for. Each root race has a more succeeded level of sophistication, not making them better or worse than individuals, but in the sense to give a new key that transforms humanity into a new experience. That is precisely one main fulfillment in life, to revolutionize what we know as experience, as life, to a greater awe in the all. And so as we know it, millions upon millennia, I won't say that, but a long time, there has been this push and pull to rise in consciousness, civilizations rising in sophistication, technology, even meaning that some of the population would ascend and rise into a greater awareness of oneness. But it's never construed with the majority of the population. That is why most of our population is not in alignment with the laws of God inside of ourselves. God the Creator. The I am that I am. And by the use of our sacred fire inside of us, by the use of the sacred fire mantras, prayers, and activities and intentions, that we can assist others throughout our community and workplace, in our homes, using invocations that perhaps I have already said, which I think I will have to go back and add. Transcendence Toolbox, heartcenter.org. And various mantras and writings that may come through me to allow our collective effort to build a way for others to see that there can be more than the way that they are living now. Conceal itself. To whereby we are just being who we really want to be, not what we were told what we should be, how to be, and why the absolute right use or the right thought of any type of education can overlay our own selves and whatever truth we wish to define. We have ancient records in us, most of us, And a lot of these invocations are able to transform these things. But right now, in the time of great calamity, and I say calamities because on the inside of most people there is a ravaging torture that is really creating schizophrenic paralysis, which is a state of imbalance. It will have a cause and effect upon the outside manifestation of planet Earth and the structures we have today, in ways that I've already mentioned before. And yeah, the use of invocation will be detrimental in the various ways where invocation as a definition is not absolute in a certain sentence, in a certain description. We are entering the age where words will have less and less of an absolute meaning. So what one person said is the ultimate way, or another group saying that is the way of God, or another way saying that is the most logical, rational way that only an idiot can disprove. Only an idiot can deny. All these things to put down one another. This is the age of Aquarius, where 2,000 years ago it was the age of Pisces that Jesus ushered in for us to establish peace, which had a lot of backslides due to various fallen individuals and collective entities built up to use sin, to use various religious and scientific methods to disarray the purpose of these methods, universally down to its core, to know there is no absolute perspective. And whatever method and preaching and invocation you give, there is no ultimate experience that determines that others are not in the same alignment and equality as us. Thank you for listening, everyone. And I would love to hear your input. I would love to work with you. I would love in the future to go around the world and just speak to as many people as possible. Write books and do all these things, but right now, most of the world construes to be against those who can do this. But a lot of good work is being done. And the last thing I wish to say is that if there is a will, there is a way. And don't let that way be divided amongst our own experiences where we felt so separated against the forces that be. We are more than these forces. And know, dear ones, that you are as I am more than anything in this world. And you are perfect to allow this more here and now. I am more than anything in this world. I am perfect to allow this more to be here and now and forevermore. By our ability to accept that there is more, it shall be more for us. In the many ways that we can expand and emanate it to others to see that it is a new experience, perhaps not a new acceptance, but a new experience, will be the judgment if they want to choose life or death after knowing what you have just given them. Kara shudalam dushtibaka dushtibalama. And I'll sing to you. Ella du niram, ella du disu hitadanatu, ella nu tihi dilla dula kushyala mitarutu. Kelarna dutihi, ella nahadu sikiranadu nidihinadum, arnodiha en lana doce ke dalam Ella tu ya lana du kede ara deshiladu kudianam. Ona shukutedam besala.